My name's Terry Chase. I'm going to be speaking with you for the next 15 minutes. I have to talk about the last 30 years, though, so it's going to be kind of fast. I do want to do a thank you, though, to the speakers before me, particularly those who have been in very dark places and have been able to find the light. And I also thank Bert for showing us how to capture the light. So my journey began April 2nd, 1988, right here in Grand Junction. I was out on a 10-mile bike ride coming in, really pumping hard across the Colorado River Bridge, following two really better cyclists than me, and thank God they were better than me. Because as I crossed that bridge and began to do my lean into the junkyard tour, for those of you who remember that, a man who was driving drunk behind me hit me. I didn't know it until I was on the car, and I was like, boy, this is really bad. It's kind of hot. I could hear my bike being crunched underneath. I didn't know what was happening, and then he swerved, or the car swerved, and I hit the ground. I sustained a T12 spinal cord injury, incomplete, which, gave me some use of my legs. But as I lay there on the ground, I was kind of wondering about how was I going to return to being a PE teacher? That was the first thing on my mind. Over the course of time, though, I learned to take a first step, one of many. So I'm in rehab, and I'm learning to use a wheelchair and transfer and take care of bathroom needs and all the unpleasant things that go along with that. And my recreation therapist said to me, Terry, there's a water skiing outing next Tuesday. Do you want to go? And I'm like, okay, Carol, I get my brace off, but what's the doctor going to say? She said, I don't know, just ask him. So I asked Dr. Curtis, and he said, sure, you can go water skiing. Your back is firm. That was one of many first steps that I took. The air was cold. The water was flat. I got in, and I didn't know what the heck was going to happen, but the boat took off, and so did I. That was the first of 29. Next summer will be 30 years that I have water skied. And one of the lessons I hope for you to think about is what's your first step? Because it's not just the first step, it's the next step, and the next step, and the next step after that. Lesson 2 was I had to learn to listen deeply. So I'm sitting on the edge of Canyonlands. This is about 11 months after I got hurt. I'm the sag wagon for my buddy Al. He's riding his mountain bike. If I hadn't been hurt, I would have been riding it with him. But I'm driving the car. So I'm waiting for Al to meet me up at the end of the day, and I'm right at the edge of that canyon. I can feel the warm winds coming up. I could hear the birds in the air. And I'm thinking to myself, I really hate this wheelchair. I hate the confinement of it. I want to be on that bike. I want to be out on the PE field teaching my kids down at East Middle School again. Maybe I'll just go over the edge. And it wasn't like I wanted to kill myself. I just wanted to be free. But I knew that wasn't really going to happen. It wasn't going to be the best thing for me. But there were many other times through these 30 years that I wanted to go to that edge and go off and be free. From that experience, I learned that opportunities to find deeper powers within myself come when life is most challenging. So I had to listen to the whispers of what was my next step? Where was I called to be? Who needed me next? What was I to learn about myself? And I learned. I learned that I had a lot of self-hatred. I learned that I had a lot of self-loathing that really wasn't working for me. But I had to go to that dark abyss and find a way out and listen to those whispers. So I got a call back. I got a call to give back. And what I remembered was that I was a really good teacher and I loved teaching. My journey took me through nursing school after they accepted me the second time. I made it through nursing school, and I made it back to the rehab place, the rehab hospital where I was a patient. I was able to develop the patient and family education program, where I got to talk with patients with spinal cord injury and their families about how are you going to do this? How are you going to stay healthy? Well, one day, Bubba showed up. He was a 23-year-old good-looking man. Although I always say that Bubba looked kind of messed up. He had complications from all kinds of problems associated with his injuries. He couldn't see very well. His jaw was frozen open, so his mouth was constantly open. He couldn't walk. He was paralyzed on sides of his body. But I knew that he could hear. He cognitively was still there. So I said to him as he rolled into my classroom, pushed by his mom, I said, "Bubba," I just showed right up in his face, "Bubba, I'm glad you're here today." And he's like, and I said, it's really important that you learn about this. And it's really important that every day you show up. I know you can't talk, you can't hear, but guess what? We're going to communicate. I want to make sure you're right up next to me in the front of this class. So for the next 15 classes, Bubba showed up. I had a way of being able to formulate my question, so all he had to do was give me a nod or a thumbs up. Bubba made it through all those classes. He got discharged. He went home. And he told his mom that one of the best things he liked about me was that I made him feel normal. I always think about Bubba because I've never gotten right up into somebody's face and said, "You better be in these classes," like I did with Bubba. Sadly, Bubba didn't make it. Another complication to free up his vocal cords actually went bad, and Bubba passed on. So I learned to give back, and I learned to give with wholeheartedness. Because one of the people that I learned from was David White, who's a poet and an author. And he said that the antidote to exhaustion isn't rest, it's wholeheartedness. And so over the course of 30 years, I've worked wholeheartedly to find out, what's my call? How can I give back? Who can I inspire? What's the next step I need to take? And I really hope that today I've inspired you in some way. For you to think about what's the next first step for you, and to encourage you to take that first step, and the step after that, and the step after that, and to really listen deeply. What's calling you? What are the whispers that are coming through that you're like, I don't really know if I want to listen to that? Listen carefully. It may tell you where is your next step. And to certainly always take that opportunity to give back. And in gratitude, I thank you all for being here today. Take care.